Hello, everybody. My name is J. Michael Moore here at Goswetta Business School, the campus of Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're here today to talk about MBA admissions, particularly for those of you who are veterans and members of the service for the United States and around the world, stationed everywhere. So we would like to begin by introducing our panel, and we're going to have time to answer some questions and go through some slides. Feel free to submit your questions at any time. Through the tool that you're watching this webcast on. We will either answer them on air or we will take and answer them in the back where we have members of our admissions team available. So from my left, I'll allow our panelists to introduce themselves.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Stalzer. I'm the Director of Admissions over Military Recruiting for MBA admissions at Goswetta. I've been here about 7 years, and I know that several of you on the webcast today I've had conversations with already. So nice to see you, and thanks so much for joining us today. And especially thank you for your service to our country. We appreciate you and your service and your leadership.
And Josh Blackman from Atlanta, Georgia originally. I did 8 years in the Navy and then used my time here at Emory to transition out of the military into the civilian workforce in the 2-year full-time program.
Okay, well, let's get right to it then. Amy, I know you wanted to review today's agenda, or actually I will look through the agenda real quick. So first of all, we're going to talk about the veteran community here at Goswetta Business School, a very active group that we have here, and I think you'll all come to appreciate, even without being on campus, how wonderful this group is and how supportive they are. A little bit about the classroom experience. Of course, if you're going to come to business school, you're going to want to know a little bit about that. And then also careers and then what it's like to live in Atlanta. And Josh, that's fantastic that you are from here and you can also talk a little bit about the city. Obviously a great place to be, a very diverse and worldly city. So Amy, we'll continue on with you. A little bit about the veteran snapshot.
Great. So to give you kind of a brief overview of our community and who you could expect to be joining and sitting with in the classroom. Right now we have 37 veterans across our 5 MBA formats. That is important to note because when you are joining a business school community, you need to be aware not just of the people who are sitting right next to you, but at Goswetta you have the added advantage of connecting with veterans enrolled in our executive and evening MBA formats as well. That expands your network both of current students as well as the alumni that you would engage with during the process and afterwards. To break that down a little bit further, there are about 20 veterans enrolled in both our 1-year and 2-year formats combined at the present moment, and growing each year. We have representation from all of our branches, which is always very exciting for us, and fairly well distributed as well. So you will get a breadth of experience from people who have had slightly different yet similar experiences. Important to kind of know, of the veterans who are here, about 2/3 of them are people who are coming out of the military, using the MBA as that transition point, and then planning to go into industry of some kind, either corporate or nonprofit. Of the remaining group, each year we have a few sponsored military who will return back to their military service afterwards. And then a few who have already been out and working in industry and returning to the MBA to accelerate their careers. We have students who, as I mentioned, who are active duty, and several students who continue to participate through reserves assignments, and we welcome and encourage that. That perspective is very helpful to have in the classroom. And then important to note for our full-time students, at this point 100% of our currently enrolled students are receiving some form of scholarship from Goswetta Business School. We are very committed to helping you achieve your educational objectives. We do that through the Yellow Ribbon Program and through Merit Scholarship. Some of our prestigious scholars here at Goswetta are military veterans as well. So important for you to kind of understand who is here and who you would be joining if you joined our community. We wanted to try to break today's discussion into kind of the major components of what your MBA experience would be. So part of that, as J. Mike said, would be the classroom experience. So I'm going to share a little bit about some of the unique features about Goswetta Business School, and then Josh can talk more specifically about his experience in the program. One of the interesting parts of our MBA program is the fact that our core curriculum is completed for the most part in your first semester. This is important as you're comparing programs because it allows you to take electives in the spring of your first year for the 2-year program, or move rapidly into your electives in the 1-year program before you go into the recruiting process, either for internship or for your post-MBA job. And that's important because it allows you to add value into that summer internship in particular in the industry that you're planning to go into. And as a transitioning veteran, if you're coming out of the military, to be able to have some finance classes or marketing classes or consulting kinds of experiences before you go into your internship interviews, and then your internship experience allows you to add value more quickly. We have a unique course at Goizueta called Management Practice. It's a 2-part course, a core class that all of our students go through, and then the opportunity to take a management practice elective in your specialty area. Management Practice is an interesting class in that you are learning literally how to practice different approaches to complex problems. You will be given the tools on learning how to, for problem solving as well as for motivating and incentivizing teams, which can be a little bit different approach in the corporate sector than it is in the military. And then you're given real-time industry challenges in order to solve. So for example, we've had companies like Delta or Coca-Cola come and bring us a real-time problem with some of the data that they are working with, and our student groups and teams have worked together to provide some solutions and use that as a test ground. It's better to practice those kinds of problem solving when it's somebody else's company than when it's your paycheck on the line. Part of your curriculum involves a lot of electives. We know that you want to spend time deep diving into areas of interest to you. You will see on the screen the different electives that are concentration areas that are available to you. Many times students will pick 2 concentration areas and to deep dive into those areas. And then global opportunity is really important. Most MBA programs will offer you global opportunities. We feel like we do a very good job of them here. Most students will participate in a mid-semester module, at least one, traveling internationally. Some recent international modules have gone to Brazil, China, South Africa, Thailand, and Cambodia. We know you've probably done a lot of traveling in your background with your military experience. These trips are a little bit different in that you're doing industry visits and meeting with alumni and corporate leaders in those locations, and then adding some cultural and more recreational activities while you're over there as well. You have the opportunity to do some short courses, and you could do full-length study abroad semesters if you wanted to do that. We had a veteran in the last couple of years who did that in Spain for his final semester, and he really enjoyed that. So lots of opportunities to deep dive in different areas of the world, but specifically focusing on the business experiences and the interaction of business and government and East and West in those examples. So that's a bit about the classroom experience, kind of from the organizational standpoint.
Thanks, Amy. I wish there was a way that we could look out on the crowd and ask everybody, raise your hand if you're a member of the United States Navy, because that might spark some different conversation. But there was a question that came in almost immediately, and I think it's a great segue, Josh, into you describing your experience in the program. And it's, if you were accepted by other schools, why Emory? And how did you approach, how did their approach to veterans shape your decision? How did the approach here guide you and attract you?
So for me, I went off a couple criteria which I applied to all the schools. I actually didn't find a whole lot of difference in the way different schools treated veterans. I actually found that almost all the schools were very accepting. I didn't find anybody where I would feel uncomfortable going to their campus. So that became not something to discriminate on. The point, I guess, about the culture here, which is different, which wasn't the main priority, but I think is to the point of the question, is just the way the community at the school interacts overall. So Goizueta is a very small school, smaller class sizes than other ones, and that was very attractive to me. So you get to tighten it with your classmates. I know all of my classmates. Smaller class sizes, intimate with the professors. Those are the types of things that were different about Goizueta's culture than a couple of the other schools that I was looking at. But to be honest, culture was maybe third or fourth down on my list for how I was going to make this decision. Something that you might not be thinking about now, but became very important as soon as I got here. The jobs afterwards were one of the most important decision criteria when looking at the different schools.
So what were some of the things you did look at? I mean, academics, I'm sure, played a role, and how has your experience here thus far shaped your career goals in terms of the classes you've taken? What have been some of the most valuable for you, the extracurricular activities? What are the things that you've done that you know are going to help you in your post-grad career?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess as far as decision criteria, I looked at school rank probably as my first one, followed immediately by their employment statistics. And every school publishes their employment statistics. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that you can look at. If you know where you want to go, certain schools make it easier to get to those places. And that'll show up very clearly in their statistics. And if you don't know where you want to go, then it's also good to look at the statistics, because you will probably wind up going wherever your school has the strongest alumni network, or some mix between your undergrad alumni network and your graduate school alumni network. So, you know, if you're kind of Swiss coming in, if you're just going to feel it out, you'll probably wind up in one of those areas, which is a good thing. That's where it's easier to get jobs. And as far as my experiences here, the core was very intense, but it was a great way to get familiar with kind of a wide range of business. And by the end of the core, I felt like I could talk business to any business person, maybe not for very long, but I could hold my own pretty much in any topic, which was really good. And then I dived down in the areas that I wanted to. So it was really specific courses for me that made a big difference. And part of that is just figuring out between the military and civilian what I'm good at. I was transitioning from IT and operations in the military and in the Navy into finance and strategy, and then I also got into real estate. So real estate was something I never considered before, and tried it out here.
You mentioned careers. I think now's a great time to mention because according to Bloomberg Business Week rankings, it came out late last year, and we are the #1 school of the top 25 for career placements, the 3 years in a row. So that certainly, I'm sure, played well into your decision. Another question for you coming in, I think very specific, and you touched on it a little bit there about how you wanted to go from IT to finance and military life to sort of not only civilian life, but graduate student life. They're a little different. So Jason wants to know, what's the most difficult aspect of the transition process from military to business school?
Good question. Very good question. I would say the most difficult aspect is you probably don't even realize it, but right now you and everyone around you are pretty much rowing in the same direction. Your organization is all headed in the same direction. Even if it's not going as well as you want it to, pretty much everyone's going the same direction. And at any school that you go to, school is designed to let people go in their own direction, find their own, so nobody's going in the same direction now. And that's something that I took a while to get used to, that using school as a way to transition is an individual journey. And I actually started work on Tuesday, and now I'm right back in a corporation where everybody's rowing in the same direction. It's almost like a breath of fresh air. It's a little bit relieving. It's like, okay, now everyone, I know how to do this. But that was one of the bigger adjustment points. And the rest of the adjustment points was really around military management experience versus the rest of everyone's experience. So I found that non-military classmates, even though they had 5 years of work experience, were usually very senior advisors or very specialized technical analysts, which is very different than your experience has been. And that's one of the reasons why all MBA programs, including Emory, want the military infused in here into their classes, because you bring more management experience, at your age than anybody else does. But everyone else lacks management experience. So that was a very interesting perspective to get used to. You take it for granted right now unless you worked a job before you went into the military. That leadership is even important in the first place. It can be completely overlooked as a skill set elsewhere. So those were probably the two biggest transition points.
If I could just jump in on
Absolutely.
that for 2 quick points. The first is that to address Jason's question, one of the things that the military do really well in terms of transition is that you are much more regimented and thorough with your approach to work than perhaps some of your classmates are. And we're lucky at Gosweda in that our student body is very talented. They're high achieving, they're accomplished people in their careers and in their undergrads. And so we put together a really good class. But one of the things that the military folks bring to the class is that you come to it every day, that school is now your job. It's now your full-time job. And you're up early, and you're prepared, and you stay up late, and you prepare, and you prepare, and you prepare. And that is something that's really going strong for you. So while it can be somewhat intimidating to make a couple of transitions for you very quickly sometimes. You're coming out of the military, and then you're coming into education. You're probably relocating to Atlanta. All of those transitions can be stressful. You have the best mindset and the best practical experience to be able to do that successfully based if you continue to do what you always do every day in your work. So that's number one. Number two is that our curriculum and our approach to our curriculum has been set up that you will always be day one ready, right? You'll see that in all of our literature about being day one ready, and we really do try to stick to that in our curriculum. We have a very extensive onboarding process for orientation at the start of the semester, where we will make sure we get all of your questions answered and get you in the best spot for that day one of your first class. It's similar to we put your core in the first semester so you're ready for that day one of your internship, et cetera, down the road. But in thinking specifically about transitions, as Jason asked about, we will make sure that you are ready and you already have the skills to be ready. So I think that those are two important factors to think about as well.
A couple more questions, I think, before we move on. And thank you all for your questions. These are very good, and that certainly takes a load off us because we know that we are giving the audience exactly what they need. One question that's come in and that I will actually answer, and you all can speak on, is what are some of the initiatives, particularly for veterans at Gosweda, and the things that happen once you're in the classroom? One thing that makes us unique is our leadership program is run by a former 3-star general, General Ken Keane, who was, I forget the acronyms completely, but was in command in the Caribbean and South America, and also led relief efforts after the Haitian earthquake. And in his retirement, he has taken on maybe a bigger role than he had in the military, and sort of galvanizing leadership across all of our programs. And there's a heavy military influence to that. So there are leader reaction courses that our MBAs go to at Fort Benning, partly because of Ken King's involvement, and definitely because of students like Josh. There's a very active military club for veterans here on campus, and particularly at Gosweda. So those are just two things I think that'll feel familiar. Josh, do you have anything to add just about kind of how the culture and how veterans work together once they're here on campus and get to know each other and support each other?
Yeah, so I think the three big things, you touched on the first one, which is the leadership program, which is relatively new within the last 2 years. So that's something that's getting off the ground, and General Keane wants your involvement once you get here. If you want to, he wants the military leadership kind of infused in that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have a military veterans club, and it's not anything formal or rigid. It's just we get together and have lunch or have drinks and help each other with whatever, and that is very, very helpful, both in terms of making the adjustment culturally and just moving to Atlanta, and also finding jobs, classwork. It's a tight-knit group, small, but it's been my best friends since I've been here, and most tight-knit group. And then the third one is, I guess for the first time this year, Between Amy and General Keene, helped organize a military recruiting event where we brought all the military alumni from Goizeta back in for an evening. It was kind of like a mixer, but we got access to a lot of people that are looking to hire vets specifically, and was a tremendously successful event. I got, I think, 3 job offers off of it, so it was a very good event. So I'd say those 3 things are the biggest.
I might add just 2 quick more. The first is related to that. There is a movement in the Atlanta business community to really do a better job of connecting professionals who work in industry here in Atlanta who have veteran backgrounds. And so part of this dinner was tagging on to that Atlanta movement of major companies who have veteran affinity groups and doing a better job connecting those groups for networking as well as kind of collegial opportunities. And that will continue to grow, and we will continue to be a major player in that because many of our alumni are working for those companies that are kind of heading up those initiatives. The other thing I just might mention is that we have a few ongoing programs that year after year, that we continue to do. Every Veterans Day, we host a speaker. Our Veterans Club plays a large role in a flag raising and having a speaker. This year, our keynote speaker was a Goizeta veteran alumnus, which was very special to us. But that's a bigger Emory campus-wide initiative. And then we will have speakers come to campus at different times. In a couple weeks, we're hosting Colonel Jack Jacobs, and he has been coming for a very long time to speak to different parts of our community on topics of leadership. And so there are some ongoing ways that are infused that we don't, they're so embedded we don't quite think twice about them anymore because they're just part of our natural routine.
Exactly. I think we like to say in the marketing and communications office that we're small by design, and that lets us do a lot of things quickly, to be nimble to change and affect change. But it also creates this environment that you two are describing, is that we're just in it together. It's like we have these small groups, we get together, we hang out. That is different than other MBA programs, and that's a question specifically, Josh, that's come in, is that were you concerned about the small size of classes when you chose Emory, and about some of the reach that might be limited, if you will, which I don't think we agree with that we certainly can do a lot of things because we're small. Was that a concern, and what were some of the things that you gained out of small group projects, which is a very active part of the curriculum here?
So if I could ask quickly to clarify, are you concerned about a small reach academically or a small reach job search-wise? Because that's an important distinction.
It's actually, in reading on, concern about choosing Emory, biggest advantages you see of a smaller class size, because Emory is a comparatively small school.
So when you get the smaller class size, what winds up happening is you dive in deeper into projects, and you actually get to see how not the concepts work, but you also get to see how the mechanics work, because you break up into small groups, usually 3 to 5 people, really attack a problem, and then the professor has time to work with you on that problem and give you feedback, rather than just submitting a paper or just taking tests. It's much more project-based, and for me, that allowed me to really understand finance in a way that I don't think I would have gotten if I was just studying in a book and then taking the test. It was very, very practical type of education.
Great follow-up question to that, and then I think we have to move on. I just love the way this is worded. In the military, we are seen as a little more aggressive with our leadership style. Does Emory help soften this into a more civilian-friendly style, or harness it? How have you seen their leadership courses differ from the military approach? I think that's a fantastic question, Drew. Thank you for asking that.
It's a great question. Why don't I take the first step on it, and
please.
you can maybe talk about some of the things that you've seen or how your style has adjusted working with your classmates. So I like your choice of words in your admissions interview. Please don't use the word aggressive, but assertive perhaps, or directive are words that we tend to use to describe our military applicants, and we understand that is organizationally what works for your organization best. You may encounter industries that style works well for you and continues to work well for you. While you're a student, you will have lots of opportunities for feedback on your style and to practice new styles. And remember, I mentioned the management practice class a little bit earlier. That is one area where when you're working in your small groups, your groups are going to be providing you feedback, both written and verbal, about your style, how you're perceived, both in kind of in general meetings as well as stressful times, because we know that stressful behavior sometimes you will perhaps get more directive or shorter with your words. So we do provide lots of opportunities for you to understand your style, understand other possible styles, and then pick some goals for yourself during the program for you to work on those. I mentioned management practice. Another area that students do a lot of kind of thinking about leadership styles and communication styles is with our Gazweta Advanced Leadership Academy, which is a co-curricular opportunity, but fairly comprehensive in terms of developing your leadership skills, developing your communication skills, and how you work directively with people. There will certainly be classes and content within your coursework that covers communication styles and different leadership styles, but those are two opportunities that kind of come out really focused on self-assessment and feedback with your teams. I don't know if you had an experience or where somebody gave you some feedback, or an experience where you were able to provide a classmate with some feedback.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of experiences, but they've all been positive. No attempt at all to stifle or change my leadership style. It's all about refining. I guess the first area that I needed to change was just a vocabulary difference between the military. For example, aggressive was the name of the game at my last command. If you weren't aggressive, you were going to get run over. Well, that's a word that means something different to most companies. So all of us, all the veterans, really had to learn the difference in the vocabulary first. And as soon as that change was made, I think we're probably the most sought-after group to be in teams. And people just want to work with us because the things that are hard for them come naturally to you. So while I was at Emory, it was a very positive experience. And the other thing is, in the job interviews, that's what employers want right now. They want people who will get after problems, who don't require a lot of supervision, who will just take a problem and run with it. And that's one of the things they know they're getting with somebody with a military background and an MBA. So very positive. I hope that answered the question.
Great stuff, as always. So I went ahead and switched the slides. Hopefully everybody sees it now. Amy, back to you to talk a little about careers.
Yeah, and so we knew that careers would be a hot topic on this chat, as it should be. You're looking either to make a transition, you're looking to accelerate your career in some way, and the reason that you do an MBA in part is to help facilitate your future career goals, both short-term and longer-term. And so on the slide, you will see some of the ways that we have approached our career management. As J. Mike said, we are high in the rankings on our placement rates and numbers. We feel like we have a very good strategy to help students achieve their goals, and we're positioned well to do so. Our Career Management Center takes a dual-prong approach. The first is to provide you lots of company access and information, and then the second is to provide you lots of individual attention to help you maximize on those opportunities. So you will find that we have lots of companies coming to campus doing presentations. We have large and small networking nights. Josh mentioned the Veterans Dinner that we had as kind of an example of a smaller, more focused veterans event. But we also do larger company networking, both just for the full-time programs and then all programs, really geared to helping you get lots of information, knowing in particular that veterans don't always have a very pinpointed career goal in mind or pinpointed company in mind. We want to try to get you as much information as possible as you're making those decisions, and as much access to people who can help you. Along those lines, it's kind of two opportunities here at Gazweta that tie to our smaller class size is some more individual attention you can get from the Career Management Center. Everyone is assigned a career coach based on your career interests who will work with you one-on-one to help you prepare for interviews, prepare job submissions, seek out company access if it's an employer that's not coming to campus, really try to help you through that process, introduce you to related alumni, et cetera. And then you have the opportunity, should you choose, to take on a career mentor. In the first year, that's typically a second-year student who will help you with your internship search and give you some perspective on that. And then as a second-year student, it could be a young alumnus who works in your industry to help you through that second part of the process. So there is as many resources and assistance here as you would like to have on an individual level. I provided on that slide kind of a breakdown. To Josh's point, most business schools have some areas that they do more business in than other areas. For us, that tends to be consulting, marketing, and finance, although we certainly have fair representation with general management and operations and logistics for people who are interested in going into rotational programs, general management programs after graduation. And then the last slide, or the next slide, kind of shows you for recent alums within the last 4 years who were veterans specifically, where did they go to work? Because sometimes that can be helpful and you might see some companies up there that you were interested in, and now you know that we have some veterans, recent veterans that have been placed into those companies who are there to help you as well. So that's a little bit about kind of broad strokes about our careers. But people always like to hear success stories, and that's why we invited Josh.
Absolutely. That's why we go straight to the source. Tell us about your job search.
Yeah.
So it is much different than I had imagined, to be honest. So I was used to going to a company when they have a need for somebody to come on board, and then you put in the application, and it pretty much gets resolved in 2 or 3 months. That's very different than the way MBA recruiting works. They will actually do interviews in September, October, November for a position that starts in May. So much different structure of the recruiting. And my recruiting experience, because I was transitioning from IT to finance, I had a lot of people sending me emails about IT. In the first year, I didn't want to do that, so I pursued companies for finance. And after I got my internship in finance, that made a world of difference. Didn't make much sense to me, but companies, as soon as I had finance experience on my resume, the doors were wide open. Didn't get turned down for a single interview in my second year, and I had 2 job offers in hand before Thanksgiving, one to Coca-Cola and the other one to Rock10, who does paper and cardboard box manufacturing, and which was fantastic. Both great opportunities, both in corporate finance. Also had a couple real estate opportunities. So it was a very positive experience. I think 100% of the veterans got offers from the companies that they interned with. So they really liked all of our experience. We all had offers. A couple people decided not to go back to those companies, but I think we're at 90% of the veterans basically
January.
basically have jobs right now for graduation, and the couple that don't have plenty of options on the table. So I had a very positive experience with recruiting. Now that said, recruiting is a grind no matter where you go. It's I was also not expecting the MBA to be a 2-year job search, but I think that's a good way to approach 2 years or 1 year, whatever program you're going to. There was as much time dedicated to searching for jobs and researching companies and networking as there was academics.
How would you say alumni get involved in the recruiting process, just from your direct experience and also that of your classmates and what you've seen there?
So that was for the Veterans Club. That was kind of our first stop. If you suspect you want to go into an industry or to a company, our first stop was LinkedIn. We go to find the veterans, either from Emory or just the veterans that work at that company, send them an invite, and I don't know anybody who got turned down for one of those invites. So we'll go have coffee with them. They'll be very open and candid with us about the career opportunities that are there, whether they're or not, and what a career looks like. So it was a fantastic source of candid information. You get something beyond the company line. You kind of get to peek under the hood when you're talking with another veteran. They just kind of open up for you. So it was great from that perspective. It was great from the actual job recruiting perspective. Like I said, the event that we had, the networking event, really resulted in a lot of jobs. They came here specifically looking for a pool from us. So that was another great opportunity.
Another question for you, Josh, and I think you're going to bring up one of my favorite faculty members when I ask this. What real estate opportunities presented themselves to you, going back to your earlier comment?
So this was in commercial real estate, and it was interesting. So a professor named Roy Black came and started the real estate program and has really grown it. After my corporate finance internship, I wanted to look into real estate and either getting into real estate private equity as somebody who manages a portfolio of real estate investments, or into a public company that manages real estate investments. And I went from knowing nothing about real estate to basically being offered jobs at private equity firms within a semester. Now, that's all I did for a semester, but I don't think you can make that turn in very many places. So that job market they don't recruit at all, period. Not at Emory, not at any school. It's so small that the only way to get into it is to know somebody. And in this case, probably one of my best stories about my Emory MBA is I went to the professor, said, I need your help now. He stopped what he was doing, and for 2.5 hours, went through his Rolodex and called people. And I had 5 interviews that week from that call. So not only got the academic kind of crash course of real estate market analysis, real estate finance, real estate development were the 3 courses I was in. Also on the real estate private equity board, where we got a chance to invest part of Emory's trust fund into real estate companies. But then I also had the benefit of somebody who was very well connected in the Atlanta market picking up the phone and making calls for me. And that to me was probably one of the highlights here at Emory.
That's a fantastic story. I think one to move on to the next slide then, which is talking about a place you know well, Josh, having grown up here and always living here, talking about Atlanta. So, Amy, you want to go over some of this boilerplate information about Atlanta for those of you who may not have had the pleasure to come here before?
Yeah, and I would care to wager that most of the people on this webcast have been at least to our airport, if nowhere else. But it's a lot nicer outside the airport, so next time try to come through. In thinking about business schools and looking at business schools and looking at top-ranked business schools in particular, one of the things that we feel like is very important about Gazweta is that we are located in the city of Atlanta. And you can see the stats on the slide about the city and really kind of start to get the feel of it. How that translates, though, becomes really important. We are a top-ranked program. We have a smaller class size, and to be in Atlanta then means that we are well known and well established in Atlanta, and we have excellent connections with major corporations that are headquartered here. What that translates to on a regular basis is people coming to campus and your opportunities to go to them. And Josh mentioned doing some coffees and some lunches with people earlier. It is easy to access these companies when you are right here and you are right down the road, and it's a 10-minute drive into Midtown Atlanta to have coffee with somebody at Coca-Cola, and then or UPS or Delta, and then you can head back to class and still make the class on time. So it's really important to understand why proximity is important. It's also important to know that we have a large bank of alumni here. So in thinking about alumni networks and networks that you can access, even if your end goal is not to be in the Southeast, they provide a really good starting place with a direct connection to some of these corporations that you might want to work for or work with later on down the road. So, and then it's important, some of you may be Some of you may be bringing people with you, spouses, fiancés, partners. Atlanta provides an opportunity for your significant other to have some career opportunities and some life outside of the program for you as well. And so, we have pro sports teams and we have college sports teams. We have major concert venues and easy access to lakes and mountains and things that if you ever put down your book and want to go and engage in some fun, or if your significant other says we will engage in some fun right now, then you have some opportunities to take them there. But it's important to kind of think about where you're going to be for 2 years. It's a short period of time. Your options are probably better than some of the places that you have lived, but Atlanta should be kind of on top of that list for the additional access that it provides you during your time here.
Yeah, and to build on that a little bit about the international nature of the city and the airport, I can speak from experience. There's something very refreshing about being in that airport when you know you're home and you don't have to make a connection. It all of a sudden is not that bad. But Atlanta's a very vibrant international city as well. I mean, these stats aren't really well known, and in some cases anecdotal, but people may not realize there are consulates and representatives of countries from all over the world that have offices in Atlanta. Chambers of commerce that are networked in Atlanta with the German-American Chamber of Commerce and all these different companies. Mercedes-Benz just moved their North American headquarters to Atlanta, or announced they're moving it there. So there's a very diverse and worldly nature in Atlanta, a connection to Central and South America, again, because of the airport as well. Josh, what are your thoughts on the city of Atlanta and how it helped spark your career search and was a good place to be for that time of your life?
So for me, Atlanta was a really important aspect of school because my wife and I are both from here, and we had just had kids. I wanted to go to school specifically here for family reasons, and that was kind of my overwhelming drive for Atlanta, which I didn't take into consideration how big a deal it would actually be. So one thing I really underestimated was how much of a difference it makes in the job search. It really is difficult to network with people in other states and other cities. It's not impossible. People do it all the time. I have classmates that go to Texas to network with the folks in the oil industry, folks that go up to New York for investment banking and have a very heavy recruiting season there, and folks who fly out to San Francisco to get involved with tech startups. So it happens, but it's much more difficult. And for a lot of the schools in the Southeast especially, those students are flying to Atlanta all the time to network with the, 750 companies that are in our backyard, and in many ways I took for granted up front, but it was very easy to get in touch with anybody at any corporate headquarters or level of government that I needed to. In fact, they had more time for me than I had time for them. In some cases, I couldn't get to see as many people as I wanted to. So it really makes a big difference when it's easy to network.
A great question coming for you, and I think we also get this question a lot when we talk about our executive program. To add to what Amy is saying, can Josh give his perspective on how the spouses of veterans are active in the Coswetta community? And I take liberty to add to this, just what is that experience like for a spouse when you're going to school and you're doing all this work? How is work-life balanced?
So just to start off with fair warning, that first core is very intense, and you should really talk with your spouse about that. If you were looking for kind of an ease into the college, to a college experience, that is not what you should expect on the first semester. It does get much better after that, and much more time to go on trips, and there is plenty of time. I've enjoyed having a lot of time with my kids since the core, but the core is a very intense way to start. And then we were talking about something.
Yeah, we were. So, and it's interesting to me. My cousin is married to an Air Force officer, and so she has done kind of the follow to wonderful places around the world. And she has the personality that she likes to jump into the community and meet everybody and be friends with everybody and organize activities. And we understand that some of your significant others are going to be that way as well. And so we provide outlets for that. We have a partners club that plans activities for partners, both together with the students, and sometimes when the students go off on a trip, a career trek in the fall or a mid-semester module in the spring, partners throw a party just for themselves while you all are traveling. So there is community there for the partners to be part of if they choose to, and not everybody chooses to. Some people have family here, and so they have their own networks. Some people are coming and taking on their own professional jobs, and so they're establishing their own networks. One of the things that I think has spoken most to me was, and we were talking about this, one of the veterans had shared with me that what was really nice for his partner was that they made their house the study group house. And so that way the partner could get to know the people that he was in class with. And he said, quite honestly, in some cases, the partner became closer friends with some of his classmates than he did. But it was important for him for that partner to feel included. And that's important for us that your partners feel included, because they are moving here, they are doing some kind of career change or a geographic change to be here with you. And so we provide opportunities as much as they would like to become involved, and we hope to see them here around campus.
So one of the universal signs that a presentation's ending in the business world is that there's contact information on the slide. So we are now at that slide. The briefing is over, if you will. So if you have any last-minute questions, please throw them in now. We will take everybody's email from logging in and follow up with folks directly. We put this video online. Give us about a week or two to take care of that, along with the slides. So you can go back and review or always have for your reference. But Josh, you're kind of the man of the hour, having gone through this, where we're just spectators. Anything else you want to add if you were talking to your friends back from the Navy about considering this program?
Yeah, would specifically, please reach out to us in the Veterans Club. We will make every effort to get back to you. We have lots of people that want to talk to you, and that's kind of one of the ways that we see our primary role is just helping folks transition out of the military. So we'll give you very straightforward feedback, help you however we can. I know we've helped folks with applications or essays, or if you need a second set of eyes. So it's not anything formal. It's like reaching out to a fellow veteran. So please feel free to contact the Vets Club if we can help you.
Amy, anything you would like to add about deadlines or where people should be in their application process now if they're wanting to come back to school?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about working with military candidates is some of you are planning very long term. You're looking at 2016 or 2017 or even further, and you're planning ahead, and we always appreciate that. And some of you found out in the last couple of days that you will have that opportunity this year. And if that's the case, we're still accepting applications for 2015 for both the 1-year and the 2-year. We did just pass a major deadline, but because we are a military-friendly institution, we always continue accepting military candidates for as long into right before the start of classes as we possibly can, help you get through the process. And so certainly you see my email on the slide. Please reach out to me if you're thinking short term. I'm happy to help you. The other thing I will say on that is that our goal at Gazweta is to be very transparent in our admissions process. There should not be any mysteries. There's no question that it's not okay to ask. And as much information as we can provide, either by looking at essays or giving you kind of the rationale of what the admissions committee is looking for, that's what we're here to do to help you, because we really want you in our classroom. And we'll do what it takes to get you there. So, and then the last thing I would just add is, one more time, thank you for your service. We are all grateful for it.
Of course, I'd like to add that as well on behalf of the entire school community. Thank you for your service. And I'll give you one other website. If you want to know a little more about the school, emorybusiness.com is our new news site. So writing about trends in business education, but also getting to know our faculty and what they do and how they comment on the news and are very active in the real world. And some stuff on there with General Keene as well, and some things that he has done. So you'll get a different slice about how things work around our campus. So again, for Josh and Amy, We're going to sign off for today, and again, look for this information in your inbox later so you can review. Thank you again for attending today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.